Welcome to Whip It Good, the content series exploring the art of client service. We're your hosts, Steph Graham and Cami O'Keefe. And Cam, what is on the Whip agenda today?
So today on Whip It Good, we have Age Conti. He is Head of Marketing at Fresco. Welcome, Age.
Thank you for having me.
Excited to have you here, Age. And I'm just going to start off by reading a bit of a bio of Age's career so far. So Age Conti knows what it's like to be on the other side of a brief. Before landing client side, Age cut his teeth at a range of creative agencies as brand strategist, including McCann, Melbourne, Wieden & Kennedy, London, DDB, where he developed a reputation as a deep thinker with a serious talent for brand building. That agency foundation shaped everything that came after. Along the way, Age has done stints client-side at Rockstar Games and as international product manager, and then Roadshow Films, where he ran full lifestyle campaigns for Australian and international releases. Today, he is head of marketing at Made by Fresco, putting all of it into one of Australia's most recognised premium drinkware brands. A suit who sat in the agency chair, he gets it from both sides, and that's exactly what makes this one worth tuning in for. Welcome, Age.
Thank you for having me.
Woohoo, I have got a Fresco cup.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The best.
They are. I will hard recommend.
Yes, and I think we're really keen because you set your foundation of your career agency side and then you went client side. It's really good. I'm keen to get your insights of how the transition went, but then also as a client, what you look for in client service talent. So maybe we'll kick off, we'll get you to give us a bit of a rundown of your career so far.
Yeah, sure. I think when I first kind of came out of uni and doing all that stuff, I wanted to work in a creative business and put some of my kind of like creative skills to work. And I didn't really know anything about advertising or marketing or any of that stuff. I didn't study it, but I fell into a job in copywriting initially, and then within copywriting, discovered planning. Felt like I was more into that kind of. I felt like, copywriting's great, acting off a brief, but then when I found planning, I was like, that feels like more of a blank page for me. It was almost like one step removed from being constrained creatively. And I just got into planning and then kind of navigated my way through different agencies and always chased different opportunities and people where I was able to. And yeah, kind of just managed to windle my way through a bunch of different things.
I feel like that's often the way. It is more squiggly than we anticipate, but 3 questions came to mind as you gave us that brief career squiggle.
Yeah.
First, you said you didn't study advertising at uni. No. What did you study?
I wanted to be a screenwriter. I wanted to be a filmmaker, screenwriter.
Yeah.
I think the Italian DNA in me was like, that's not a very safe career choice to have in Melbourne. Yeah. So I kind of thought, how do I use these skills commercially?
Interesting though, because screenwriting, so ideas and words.
Yeah.
So then you took them and became a copywriter.
Yes.
How did you make that leap or that transition? How did you know to?
I didn't. Honestly, I didn't. I stumbled across a place down in Port Melbourne through some other people I knew. It was a place called See Life Differently. It was like this crazy agency. I didn't even know what an advertising agency was. I walked in there and I was kind of just like, what is this place? Who are these people? What are they doing? Yeah. And I didn't even know what it was. It was a cool place. I went and spent a week filming a CV of myself. Oh. And it was me doing a whole bunch of different things with a bunch of supers. I put my filmmaking skills
that's so good.
And I burnt it onto a CD and then went into that office and put it on the managing director's desk and left it there.
Yeah.
And he called me about half an hour later and he was like, who the fuck are you? And he was like, I'll give you any job you want. And that's how I started.
Oh, I love this so much because actually there's a couple of themes. A, you've totally dated yourself by saying you burnt it on a CD,
100%.
by the way.
I'm old.
Yeah, we are. We're all feeling aged. But I was going to say this idea that putting yourself out there and actually just doing something a little bit bold. I think I can't remember who it was that we've had a conversation, but it's a similar theme that, you think it's sort of an anecdote or a story that no one actually does, but actually a couple of the conversations we've had that has come up. Yeah. So definitely incentive to go and do.
You get so excited. I just lit up when I heard that. It's like, oh, wow,
yeah,
no one does
I think
it anymore.
It's important. Like I think it's like you're demonstrating, like that was the first time I did it, but I've done it so many times. Mm-hmm. And most of the jobs I've gotten, there hasn't actually been a job. Yeah. They're not looking for someone.
Yeah.
But you make yourself so appealing to them through your passion or through your creativity or just through the approach or just your persistentness without being obsessive or like creepy.
Yeah.
It works. And it does work. I think hopefully today it still works.
Oh, I feel like we've been getting the advice from different people that we've talked to through the series that it absolutely works. So whether it's a CEO who has said, do the pestering, I think, yes, with a sense of awareness.
Sure.
You don't want to tip into being a creepy stalker, but that absolutely, I think that demonstrates hunger and initiative in an era where sometimes we feel like maybe people aren't leaning in and making the effort.
I mean, digital era now, because everyone is just, it's so much easier to send an email or just a LinkedIn message, but this is the industry, so
yeah, it's really important. I think we were looking at hiring people recently, and you just get so many PDFs. Do you know what I mean? And it's like I need more. I need something else that just distinguishes you or makes you stand out or makes me excited to see you and meet you.
Yeah.
And so I think those things are important.
I think it's like show that you're a real human, a human that would be good to hang out with is a really great place to start. So I love that. So you did it. It's paid off.
I've done it,
that was your foot in the door for the industry. So moving from copywriting, how did you then get exposure to or get an understanding of planning and feel like, yes, I'm going to put my hand up?
Yeah, I think the place that I was in at the time, See Life Differently, it was very much a place that was rooted in brand strategy at its core. And I was involved in, it's a very hands-on, very small and tactical place. And I was involved in a lot of workshops and sessions which were strategy based.
Yep.
And then working alongside people like John Douglas, who he pulled me in and was like, I think you actually have a real knack for this. And that's, I just kind of started swaying more into that part of the business. And then I think the real change was when I left C and went to McCann Melbourne.
Yep.
And that was a real almost like boot camp in traditional advertising planning and strategy, and that's where it really sort of just went, this is the way I want to go now. Yeah.
It's interesting because it's that a nice example of that balance of the way that the places you're in shape you. So this idea that your kind of first step into it was quite maybe more fluid and kind of hands-on, and you could actually dabble and get exposure, which opened perhaps the aperture to be able to go, oh, maybe this is a thing that I could explore. But then the balance of going to a more structured environment where it's like it is boot camp and you really do learn the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Do you think that was important for you?
100%. Yeah, it did. I think also it was interesting because of that time, there was like it was like the blog era. It was like the blogspot time where everyone had a blog and everyone was writing. And I started writing because I was just a natural. I wanted to write. And it expanded my profile.
Yep.
Like almost like internationally as well. And so I started to meet other planners, especially people that were more experienced than me that I could lean on for advice, people like Rob Campbell, and people who we all grew up at the same or came up at the same time, like Julian Cole or Zach Martin, people who are now my contemporaries, but we all kind of came up during the Blogspot era.
Yep.
And it was cool. Like everyone was like the whole community of planners, and you just kind of shared and learned of each other and grew together at the same time. So it was a good time to learn.
It does sound like an incredible time to learn and a brilliant way to build community. Can I ask, that feels like it would take quite a bit of confidence for someone quite young to just put their thoughts, to write their thoughts down and then share them with the world. For those who maybe don't feel as confident, have you got any tips on how they might do it?
I do. I think being honest with yourself and being honest about what it is that you bring to the sphere of influence or opinion there. And not being afraid to, share those things was important to me.
Yeah.
It didn't always work out, and also understanding that you can't break it that badly. Like you can write stuff and you can try different things and interact with different people. But as long as you're a decent person, I think it all works out in the end. And I think also the other thing as well is don't just think it ends at the writing as well. There's always the human part of it.
Yep.
Whereas going to have coffee, meeting up with people, this person's in town, what are you doing? I'll come meet you wherever you are. That kind of stuff is just as important as the writing itself.
Yep.
I think all of it together is what you need.
Oh, that's such super useful advice. I think it's like the first part in just what's the worst that's going to happen if you put it out there? You can't break anything.
To a degree,
Yeah. And also then it doesn't end with the post. It's the follow-up that's key.
Yeah, 'cause I think it's all about community, right? And community is not just you sitting at your desk, you're just doing that kind of thing. It's like even being in an agency or being in planning and strategy, it's like it was always about going out, do you know what I mean, and understanding what's really happening and what real people are doing rather than just sitting there riffing at stuff or trying to put together some slides or whatever. It was much more around doing the work, but like bringing the other stuff in.
Absolutely. It's being out in the world, experiencing
Yeah,
it, so
for
you can
sure.
have a point of view to write about it.
Yeah,
And have something
I think
interesting
so.
to say.
Yeah. And I think if it's authentic, then it's useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got the content there when you go and meet people for coffees. You can say, reference, hey, I've got this blog, and you actually have tangible things for people to go and look at and read. So
Yeah, and
even before your work.
most people back in the day only knew me from my blog,
Yeah.
not my actual work.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
it's
What was
part
it
of
called?
Oh my god, what was it called? It was called In My Atmosphere.
Ooh, and what did you write about?
It was
What
a
were-
riff off a John Mayer song, actually.
Oh my
like, back in
God,
the
John
day.
Mayer, I wouldn't have picked that.
Yeah, I was a big fanboy.
Yeah.
What was what I write about?
Yeah.
Honestly, anything. I would write about advertising, I'd write about marketing, I'd write about my own whatever, just whatever, like anything, just
Yeah.
culture.
Do you Substack now?
No, I don't do any of that kind of stuff anymore.
Really? Do you miss
kind-
it?
No, I don't. No, I'm a parent. I don't have time. I do creative stuff, but then it's more for myself now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went from blogging
Yeah.
and lots of coffees
Yes.
and then agency town, but you're now in a marketing role.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I have gone back and forth a couple of times between agency and different client-side roles. I think I've always tried to chase either an opportunity to work on a brand or product that I really love, or a person or people that I really, connect with in some way. I'm always drawn to people. So has been times when I've kind of like flipped back and forth. And I do find that sometimes I do like that because I feel like it does keeps me sharp. I think whether I distinguish it is like, when I'm working in agency, it teaches you how to be very broad.
Yeah.
And then when you work in a client side, it teaches you how to be very deep. So every so often I just kind of like to go back and forth because I do feel like maybe sometimes in a marketing sense, when I've reached a point where I have done everything I can do there, I sometimes fantasize about going back to agency because I feel like I'm a blunt knife.
Yeah,
And
okay.
working in agency helps me feel sharp.
Yeah.
So
What a brilliant analogy.
And a good trait to have because it keeps you, it incentivizes you to keep learning and challenging yourself instead of
Yeah.
just kind of plateauing and.
I think so, yeah.
But I love that. Now I've got the analogy of, how when you sharpen a knife on the knife
Yeah.
sharpener, it's so this idea that it's like, you stay match fit and keep that skill set really, I think, both agile and versatile.
Yeah,
Like,
I think the thing that does that in agency is because you're forced in agency to always be trying to think ahead of the client and provide them something that they don't have or that they need or that you think that they could use. You're kind of always forced or incentivized to stay on the edge of culture and what's happening and just at that edge of things. And there's always lots of people around and they're all doing the same thing. And so it does feel very much you're, kind of at the tipping point, right, of what's happening out in the world. And you're bringing that in and trying to commercialize it, whatever. But when you're client side, there is a risk that everything becomes very myopic. Do you know what I mean? It becomes very much that's the thing.
Yep.
And I start to become very conscious of that.
Got
so
it.
I kind of try to do things and to stay connected. And so, when I do feel like I've become like that, I make quite an effort to kind of do things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So whether sometimes that's going back to agency.
Yeah.
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 It's such a big part of your role though, because it's as head of marketing, it's like you've always got to be ahead of trends and you've got to come up with, concepts to go to the founders and say, hey guys, this is trending now, let's jump on it. And
Yeah.
it's like, we had what was the term, Georgie, who was on
Culture Vulture.
Culture Vulture.
Yeah, sure.
And
Yeah.
it's like, it's so true. It's like you've got to be immersed in it and just kind of push yourself to always know what's happening around you, not just kind of within the brand that you're working with.
Yeah, it's really true. And I think even like I'm approaching 45, right? And my thing now is like, how do I let go of that a little bit and build more of a team of culture vultures that I can rely on who know and can, bring stuff into me and me to learn as much as them. I think now I've reached a point in my career where I'm less interested in being a super sharp myself, instead building a great wallet of sharp knives that I can rely on, if that makes sense.
That vision, with the jacket
Rolling
that
out
opens and all the different blades.
John Wick, but it's like I think that's for me the more exciting part now is like building more of a team or an environment where those people can be sharp. Just as much as I am, or I try to be.
Yeah, it is interesting because as you described sort of agency energy and the idea that it keeps you really sort of at the edge and you're really kind of immersed in culture, I did think about the fact that can sometimes feel like it is more of a young person's game.
Yeah.
Not because I think you hit 50 and suddenly you're not interested in culture. I think it's a capacity piece because you do hit, for a lot of us, I know for me, there's an era where suddenly your schedule gets heavily dominated, not by the stuff you want to do, but as a parent, the thing your kids want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm always interested because I think there is, yes, youth culture, but I watch and admire, like I say I'm entering my auntie's era, listening to Jill Scott being interviewed, just saying actually in her mid-50s, she's living her best life because she is starting to actually explore other aspects of culture. It's just at the other end.
Yeah.
So I think there is, I guess I'm just like trying to contest that idea a little bit that, when it only happens kind of, at 3 a.m. in a certain laneway. I just think there is, I wonder how we as an industry also stay a bit more adept because also the boomers are the one with all the money. So yeah, just maybe I'm throwing that as a provocation your way.
No, I think you're kind of spot on. I think the thing for me is like I think if you're a born marketer or born in this industry that you have this kind of innate hunger to continually learn and to discover things and stay, relevant or I guess I'm relevant. Like even my nieces and nephews who are in high school, like I'm always asking them like, what are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you, because like, and it's not like I'm going to go and listen to the stuff they listen to. I probably would, to be honest. But like, but it's like, I'm just interested. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess I get back to your point now. It's like my priorities even day to day have shifted. Do you know what I mean? Like I can't spend as much time doing that stuff because I got to do a bunch of other stuff. Yeah. So it's like I feel like my priority now is like finding the right people to bring in who are at that point in their career where they're like super engaged, super hungry, and let them bring it into the brand.
Yeah.
And make it, something, but give them kind of like the shape and the fundamentals and the garden for them to play in, but give them the trust to do it.
I love that as a description of the role. It's almost like you've gone from being the collector more to the curator.
Yeah, maybe.
And I think if you can actually develop talent that understand what lens to collect from, then you can actually still retain a really strong sense of it, even if you're not the one on the ground.
Yeah.
I often borrow Colleen de Courcy's definition of creativity, which is just connecting dots in ways that haven't been connected before.
Yeah.
So it's like you're doing more of the connecting, less of the collecting.
Yeah, kind of. There's this Quentin Tarantino thing where, when he first started making films, he was like, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. I don't know how lights work. I don't know how sound microphones and it's like, you don't have to do that stuff, man. Like you just need to have the vision and then hire the right people to come in and then to trust that they're going to do the job that you hire them for. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay. And so that's actually taken me a little while to kind of like step back and go like, I just need good people who are great. I can help them become good marketers, but I just need them to be awesome people and creative first, and then we'll worry about the rest.
Can we talk a little bit about being able to step back?
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of you saying that took you a bit, because I think a lot of the discussion we've had with talent is this struggle to step from being the person who takes ownership and is doing everything, then actually moving into the role as you progress in leadership to actually directing others and cultivating that vision. Talk to us about how you develop that skill and where you're at.
You know what? I've probably learned it the hard way, I would say, like personally. Like it's come through, feedback from others, like constructive criticism from people that I've, made them feel like I was taking away some of their by being too hands-on or being too demonstrative or those kind of stuff, right? So it's like through, I think, just like trial and error, do you know what I mean? And growing as a person, like both professionally and personally, and just being a bit more honest with myself about like, I'm at the point in my career now, I was like, I'm not going to sneaker launches and I'm not going to, I'm not going out on a Wednesday night to Revolver and all this stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not that guy. And so my thing is like, how do I just make them understand that they work for a business and that there's a commercial reality what they're doing, but let them have enough fun within that they can express their creativity or have ideas, and not, if they do bring me ideas, to not kind of like shut them down, but to help them evolve them or, move them along into something that, is where we need it to be, but not making them feel like it's not their idea anymore.
Yeah.
And if I'm being brutally honest, it's probably taken me a long time to get there. And it's more just about like me changing my approach on a personal level with them, rather than anything else.
Yeah, nice you can own it.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's good. I think that having that relationship with constructive criticism, like you said, because I think a lot of juniors fear it. And it's like if you get constructive feedback, it's like, oh, I'm so bad at my job. But it's actually having that attitude towards it, like you welcome it to help develop your career.
Yeah, it's like, it is crucial. And I think the other thing as well that's really important is like when you ask someone for criticism, sometimes they're gonna offload on you, and then the whole trick of it is like, don't respond to it, take it, say thanks very much, go away, sleep on it and all that kind of stuff, and then realize that probably 10% of it was accurate, and 90% of them was just venting and whatever. But take that 10% and actually act on it is super important.
I got a great tip. I can't remember where I came across this, but they said ask for advice rather than feedback.
Yeah.
Because actually, when you ask someone for feedback, they actually go for criticism. Where actually that's how we hear that framing. But if you flip it and say, Age, I'd love your advice in terms of X, then you might actually bake in observations on where, I fall short.
Yeah.
But it's offered up as more, an observation on how to get better.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a hot tip.
Yeah, positive framing.
Yeah.
And so let's go into kind of day to day. So obviously every day might be different, but typical day as head of marketing, what does it look like?
For me at the moment, it's really like, check everything that happened previously, the day previously in terms of numbers and all that kind of stuff. Checking with my digital agency, making sure everything's cool, that they're all good. And then checking in with the team, basically, like just saying like, we do a stand up at the end of every week on Fridays, so that we kind of know what's happening the next week, and then it's just checking with them, saying, hey, that all good? Yep. Do you need anything? And then for me, it's like go to the marketing calendar, start freaking out about what I need to do next.
That feels like quite a nice flow for the week. It is interesting though, because I feel like the end of week stand up and then the kind of check-in. It feels like that. Did you borrow that from agency? It's got a bit of a whip stand-up energy.
Yeah, no. So it used to be Monday morning whip or, like normal kind of thing. And I was just like, man, this is so like no one wants to be there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I was like, I'm a big coffee person. So I'm like, let's go to the cafe. I want to sit down. I'm going to get a coffee. I don't care if you guys get nothing. Yeah. Let's talk about what we're going to do next week. And it's like, we just feel like, for me, it was like more of a nice way to end the week. And then everyone gets to work on Monday. Maybe they put their headphones on, they don't want to talk to anyone, but they just get on with it and everyone kind of knows what they're doing. So that was, I don't know, maybe it's an agency thing.
Yeah.
I like whips. I'm known for whips. So
hence you're a whipper good with us. Thank you. So thinking about it, is there anything else you think you might have borrowed? So being a marketer that has come from an advertising background, can you think of anything else you might have borrowed or instituted as a result of that sort of exposure and experience?
From agency?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely speed of decision, like trying to speed of decision making. Rallying people quickly, getting a lot of ideas quickly, getting people in a room really quickly.
Yep.
Figuring out what we want to do and then just going, you do this, let's go. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Or I'll do this, blah, 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 and just like move.
Yep.
Definitely that, I feel, because I feel like sometimes when you're in an agency, in-house position, things move much slower.
Got it.
Do you know what I mean? So bringing in a little bit more hesitancy or urgency has been good.
Yep.
Definitely some of the processes in terms of whips or a briefing, like internal briefing documents, things like that. It's really boring, but like things like that, to be honest.
Yeah.
They said it's been good.
I'm going to say they're not boring. As someone who's 25 years in account management, I think that's the problem. I like to think of them as like invisible sort of foundation. Yeah. When you go, if that stuff's in place, it actually just frees everyone else. Like it frees everyone up to play more. That's my premise. It's like if you don't have like say foundation, it's a shit show. Yeah. And all your energy goes to trying, where is that file? Oh, what did they say they wanted? It's a rebrief. Yeah. You're reviewing through doing. It's a nightmare. So no, I'm here to say that stuff is actually awesome.
Yeah, no, it is. You know what? And the other thing as well is like, I think bringing in agency people has been awesome because like they think for me, I don't know, I think agency people just have that sense of like, if I give them something to do, they will take that and go like, how do we then make that even better? Like they'll just add that extra 10, 20% onto things. Yeah. And they have that kind of hunger to just do better, do more. Yeah. And I'm not saying that people that come from a marketing background don't have that, but in agency, it's really drilled into you because we're always going to try and impress the client. Yeah. They've asked for this, but let's take it to the next level. Or we've got 3 ideas plus this one. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I think for me, working in a place that's quite nimble and a startup environment. It's like we just need people that have ideas and who are doers.
Yeah.
And so bringing in people that have agency experience has been great for that kind of just that forward movement.
Yeah, definitely momentum.
Yeah.
It was funny, I think we were just talking off camera that I was interviewing Russell Howcroft recently, and that he talked about the fact that agency people, what he loves about it is that they just care more. You know, and so I was thinking, is it the chicken or the egg? Like, does the agency environment draw it out of you, or is it that knowing when you enter an agency environment, that's the type of place you want to be? It's like it attracts that type of person. It's probably both.
And to be honest, I think it is both. And that's one of the reasons why in my career I've kind of like toyed back and forth a little bit, very consciously. Because I do find myself on occasion going like, I miss that environment of like where it's like, let's do this, let's go live, you know. And so, that's very true.
Yeah. And I feel like startup, scale up, is it sort of similar? What are the kind of similarities and differences from agency? Was it kind of a big transition or?
It was a big transition. I think for me, like it was, coming from even my in-house roles have been quite like big places. It was a transition. I think it's just way more hands-on. It's way more chaotic. It's way more generalized. Like he's kind of like, who can do that? You can do that. You do that now. Like that's part of your job now. And it's fine because like I'm just doing so much more that I've never been exposed to. You know, from doing stuff in the warehouse all the way through to managing the emails and Klaviyo and whatever. And it's like, and then doing this and then doing that. And it's like, it's chaotic. And you do feel like a jack of trades, whatever it is.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades. But it's fun and messy, but it's still, there's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Which is great. And you feel like you're constantly learning.
I was going to say, it would feel like at least you're sharpening that knife.
Definitely.
It's, in areas you've never had to.
Yeah. And so this has been the good part of it because it's like, even though it's the same product and it's the same thing over and over again, the job is so crazy. I do feel like I'm sharpening a different set of knives, which is good. Yeah.
So what do you think, what would be your advice to someone who's agency side, who's contemplating going into a marketing role? So I think we hear a lot about everyone's like, maybe in-house will be less demanding or
slower pace.
But it doesn't sound like that's the case.
Probably depends where you go, I think, and depends what kind of person you are, for sure. I mean, you don't have to do timesheets, so that's great.
That's incentive.
It's like a massive incentive. Like it's like unbelievable weight off your shoulders. It really depends on the person, honestly, and it depends what the product is. You know, like I think, small scale-up startups, like they can feel like an agency environment. But I think the thing with that they need a lot of is just resource. Whereas in agency, you've almost got too much resource. You've got so many things you can, and people and heads and experts in this and that. Production, you've got everything. Whereas, client side, it can be a lot different. It can be a lot like you're pushing shit uphill a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And fighting for ideas, and everything's a lot more tension of like, if we spend this money, we can't do this, and what's right. And so like there's a lot of those things you have to overcome. But I think my advice would be that make sure you feel passionate about either the product or the people that are running the place. Because that, for me, is like the main motivator to go somewhere, for sure.
Yeah. It's made me think one of the, I'm not working in an agency anymore, but as we chat and I sort of feel nostalgic and reminiscing about the bits that I love, but it is that idea of it's a room full of really fucking awesome people who are really good at their discipline. And it's the thing I remember anytime I've left, it's the thing I most miss is to say these are smart people who are good at what they do, who want to do it well. And that is such a compelling and awesome vibe to be around. What do you think is the bit, and you've had different marketing roles, if that's what we feel about agency and why we have heart for it, what do you think is the element of marketing role that you most have heart for?
I think it is for me, it's in the brand building. Like it's in understanding what this particular thing can be and then trying to understand, all right, like how do we now bring that to life across the entire part of the business? Which, when you're working in agency, you're so separate, you know what I mean? Like you could spend 6 months on something and then it just disappears into the ether and you're kind of like, oh, well, whatever, I've moved on to 10 other things now. But this is like, now we live with this thing, and how do we create something that's like really, really anchored in something that's true to who we are as a brand. So we're not bullshitting, right? And then it's like, how do we then, how does that impact the guys down in the pick and pack warehouse? How does that impact, the sales guys? How does that impact, the way our packaging looks? You know what I mean? Or the experience you have. It's like you can feel that you have control over all those things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which for me is like, if you're into brand the way that I am into brand, it's like, that's the ultimate. Do you know what I mean? But you need to be in a space that allows you to do that. And I'm talking from a very privileged, small startup, position. If you're in a bigger organization, it wouldn't be probably like that. But you get to own your little piece of it.
Yeah,
which I think is powerful.
Feels like it's ownership, a sense of ownership, which you hear a lot when people leave agency roles. I think they feel as though I'm fed up not being able to actually have a say.
Yeah.
That is certainly from my peers. I think that's why they've jump ship.
Yeah.
Is that they're like, I want to be the ultimate decision maker, because it can feel really frustrating to feel like you've put all this energy into something and then it just dissipates because someone 3 steps away has sort of, shut it down.
But it kind of depends on what what your ambition is, even within the agency. Like if you're in creative, you just want to make great work, do you know what I mean? And maybe win awards and all that kind of stuff. And then it's like, well, what happens then? Like, what are you trying to do with that? Is that then just a nugget for you to, renegotiate your pay or move on to a different job? Like, where does it end? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're a suit or in planning, like, there's something deeper going on there in terms of like with brand and with what you own.
Yeah.
And that's where it can become a little bit of a, like you're giving your heart and soul, particularly in a suiting, like really all your time and your energy, and you're really putting yourself out there and, kissing a lot of butt. And then it's like, just nothing comes from it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that can be deflating.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And it's nice to sit on the other side of the table and have those people, bringing you ideas and all that kind of stuff, suiting you.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yeah.
One of the team recently, she'd worked in agency her whole life, and she was at her first presentation where one of our agencies was presenting to us, and she was like, this is so weird to me. And I was like, yeah, it's good. Yeah.
No, you're definitely making a case for it. That sounded quite compelling, I've got to say. I was like, actually sign me up.
It's nice, yeah.
And so, because you've got a digital marketing agency.
Yep.
When you look to appoint an agency or have that relationship, are there any sort of skills that you look for in a good client service team?
Yeah, we've got a couple of different agencies that help us out, only because we're a small team, right? So we kind of need some help with stuff. We have a digital marketing agency. We have a PR agency as well that we use on occasion, and a creative agency. What do I look for from a suiting point of view from those guys? I think someone that understands our business, how the money works in our business, you know what I mean? Like that really understands like that, I'm not sitting there all day thinking about them. Do you know what I mean? Like I might have one conversation with them and then I'm talking to the founders, I'm talking to new product development guys, I'm talking to our ops person. Maybe we've got some sort of stock issue in the warehouse with something that we need to do. And it's like, man, like there's so many things going on. I kind of need them to make me feel like, yeah, that's cool. You go, don't worry about this stuff. We've got this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And for me, that's having that trust and having that kind of relationship. But I know that they understand the business. So I feel that I can trust them to just get on and go do their thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. It's such a good point, because I think so many client service people, it's easy to get in your head and think like, oh, I'm falling behind. I've got to update them. They're thinking about me. But it's you're thinking about your client so much, but the client is busy with other things. So it's kind of that maturity to be like, you go off, you do your thing, and I've got this.
Yeah.
It's a good skill, I think, to develop.
And for me, I guess the importance of a strong commercial acumen is absolutely critical. And I think, to be honest, something that maybe back in the day was a little bit undercooked. So maybe sort of at an MD and a GAD level, you were expected to understand that and really kind of get across the P&L. And also just kind of be financially literate. But I actually think that is something that has dissipated, and certainly is a focus for me at Suits All, saying, hey, it is a commercial creative endeavour. If you don't understand and get a little bit fired up about the dollars and cents, it isn't the right gig for you. And that's as someone who probably was slow to embrace it, because, like full transparency, I didn't like it that much. My motivation wasn't the sort of money side of it. Yeah, exactly. So I think as a call out, from as early as possible, I think in account management, getting across the idea that it's like, no, you have to have a really firm grasp and to care about how to make money.
Yeah.
Because that's what fuels everything, right?
Yeah, I agree. Like I think for better or worse, like money is the motivator. Do you know what I mean? And so then you're in these environments, particularly when you're back in the back serving your client, you know, and saying to them, we've got these ideas, we understand, but understanding how to bring value into it and, you know, make their money do more, I think is super important. And I think, you know, maybe, I don't know if it's unutilized or not, but it's very valuable to us, you know, to have someone come into our business and say like, we see this, we understand this, but if you do this, 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 and this, and I'm like, you know more about this than I do. I'm with you. Do you know what I mean? So I'm all for that.
Yeah. I think it's also, if you go into a creative environment, often early doors, everyone is all about defending the idea.
Yeah.
So there's so much chat about creativity that it's almost like sort of gross to talk about the cash side of things.
Yeah.
And actually, so I think when you're coming up, sometimes you're not encouraged to actually recognise, do it in a way that is generative though. So rather than kind of saying, oh, we can't make that ad because we don't have enough budget, it's actually constantly thinking, how do we find funds? How do we justify that this investment generates income?
Yeah.
Getting good at that, I think, from very early stages is something that makes you an absolutely like invaluable suit.
So good, because I think then it allows you to definitely like skirt both sides of the fence. Do you know what I mean? Because you can go, you want creative teams to feel motivated that they're going to get good work up and you're not going to just kill it and whatever. So you don't want to kill that fire or throw water on that fire. And then, but at the same time, you don't want these guys to feel like they're going to do their head in over something either. And so like being able to take that and bring it there and demonstrate value and finesse both sides of the fence is actually a massive thing. So you can find the right people that can do that. It's very powerful, I think. It's very good. Yeah.
Well, I heard a story recently, I'm not going to name names, but of an instance where a client had given, say, an annual budget. Let's just make up for story's sake. It was $1 million. And then the first concept and broadcast execution that was presented, they suggested a budget of $850, like just production value, you know, so to shoot it. And I remember thinking, that feels like a very heavily creative-led decision. You've got 12 months and you're going to go out with one execution that spends over 80% of the budget. And anyway, they did because, you know, strong creative ambition. But I said, you know, a year later, do you still have that client? And the answer, it's probably not a surprise, they don't.
Yeah.
Because it's that sort of lack of partnership saying, hey, how do we actually do this as a commercially creative?
I think in that example, for me, that's probably the first point of call for that suit should have been to actually like really understand that brief and understand like what are we going to need to do to bring that to life and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Actually, the total production budget is going to be this much money because then we have this much to be able to do what we need to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To really nail that down and then build that, I guess, like walled garden for the creatives to go crazy, but it's controlled. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think those are the best suits.
And also
they can work on both, you know what I mean?
100%. And I'm also like, and also understand, will that 800 spend on that production yield at the other side of it? Because maybe if it does, and you say, no, these are the ways that it will actually double revenue, then you could make a case for it. But it definitely did not sound.
Yeah.
That conversation was had.
So maybe all in the communication.
Yes, dial up the combo and care about the dollars and cents.
Always.
So commercial acumen, super important.
Yep.
Any other traits or particular skill set that you think is a must in a great suit?
I think empathy. I think the ability to have great empathy and someone that can use that empathy to read the room and read a situation is invaluable. Can't tell you how many times I've been in a presentation or some sort of workshop or a meeting where you just feel like, and you may be the person that's presenting and so you're kind of like there, but you have that feeling like things are going to go south or whatever, and just have that person be able to speak and just take control and make sure everything's back on track or in a direction where everyone feels like it's all good. I just think that's so important.
Oh, yeah. It's so true. That is a game changer.
Yeah.
I often talk about the fact that it's like the ability to read the room and subtly actually steer the play is just, so powerful.
That EQ piece, gosh. And just a calm presence, I think. It's like it immediately just puts everyone at ease and it's fine, let's just steer it this way.
Yeah, because that person is really like the only person in the room who is kind of the person that knows the most about both sides.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So they are kind of the navigator in a sense of like, how do we bring these two forces together in a way that is like creatively and commercially in sync?
Yeah.
And so having that person understand when it's weighted one way or the other too much, and where it's off balance or off kilter, and having them be able to kind of like just pull it back in and steer it is really great. Like, it's been moments so many times where I've been in meetings and that person saved.
Yeah.
I was like,
saved you.
oh, yeah,
You're like,
saved me,
thank
or just
you.
saved the, and like I remember like even being on the train on the way back and being like, dude, I'm so glad you were here. Like, yeah.
I love that. And I think that's the sort of invisible labour that suits do. I always talk about, I didn't know that I was doing it, but I had to make it explicit once sort of starting Gambol. But it's this idea of navigating for the win-win. So that scenario that you described, I always thought in account management, I genuinely was super invested in protecting and building a client's brand and business, but also advocating for the best possible creative idea that we could do and make for that client's brand. And I think if you kind of hold that and recognise that you serve sort of the brief and the ambition for both business, then you are able to kind of navigate that path. And I think people feel it when they work with you because you don't have a vested interest. I think when the challenge with suiting is that sometimes, depending on, I guess, the individual's preference or personality, they do start to fall too much in one camp. So I know I've heard sort of, critiques or frustrations from clients who feel that the suit might be pushing too hard and aggressively trying to sell an idea in that isn't the right fit. And then conversely, suits that are too people-pleasing to the client and sort of just say yes and then come back into the agency and sort of force the demand.
Change everything,
Yeah, so I think it is, it's not an easy task, but it is, I think it actually is the role. At the core, that's your job.
That is the job. And you're exactly right. Like, it's really hard because I think that's to go back to that trust thing. It's like, if you can demonstrate on the client side of the business that you really understand the money and the business and the stress that person's under, not just in marketing, but, with all the other stuff they've got to do, and you make them look good in their business and all that kind of stuff, which is very important. And when they trust, then that becomes easier. But on the other side of it as well, if the creatives see you as someone that's going to champion their work and not chop it, do you know what I mean? Then you can build their trust as well. And so it's hard because if you don't get it either way, it becomes quite isolating. Yeah. Because the client doesn't trust you. These guys don't just think you're a suit and you're just going to get in the way from them winning Cannes lines or whatever. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it can be quite hard. It's a hard gig.
It is. It's brutal. It's why Steph and I started Whip It Good, because I think the best of the talent out there are trying really hard to navigate that tension day in, day out. And I think there isn't enough support and also recognition of the fact that it's, a tough gig to do well at the best of times because, otherwise you can just feel like no one's happy.
Yeah.
And so we were just talking about building trust with your client, and I think a lot of people, maybe they're tuning in and maybe they've got a tricky relationship with their client or maybe they want to improve it. Do you think what's something else that they can do to improve the working relationship with their client?
I think one of the best things you can do for your client in a suiting sense is understand like what makes them look good in their business. And I think, understand like what who they have to answer to and then give them the tools or give them the information or give them whatever they need, the work, whatever, to help them put that in front of whoever's above them and go, look what the fuck we're doing. Do you know what I mean? And I think that goes a long way to building that trust because they become someone that they rely on to help elevate them within as an organisation or a situation where they feel pressure from others, judging them. And so I think that's a really helpful strategy to build that kind of relationship with the client, is understand like what they need to elevate themselves within their business and then help elevate them. Yeah.
Can I then poke a little further on that? Because I think, yes, that feels like a super practical strategy to deploy. Sometimes I have suits say to me, I can't get time with my client or, to be able to sort of ask those questions or to find out. Can you maybe give a build? Like, what would be a way? How would it be useful if someone was trying to find that out from you? What would you suggest to them?
Oh man. All right, here's an example. So I remember once we were in a meeting, and it was just having that awareness of what's being said almost like in and around the meeting.
Yeah.
And so and I guess going back to that like emotional intelligence kind of thing, or just always being switched on and understanding where value is.
Yeah.
I remember we were in a meeting once, not to name names, but we walked out and someone made a comment about a sponsorship thing, and the meeting that we're in had nothing to do with the sponsorship thing. But we went away with that and was like, did you hear that thing that she was talking about, that thing? It's like, that's an issue for her, that's a problem for her. And it's like, let's go and work that out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then we went back and proactively, presented that to her, and they're like,
Yep.
that became a whole thing. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, wow, So it's just like, I don't know, it's probably not the most practical advice, but it's like being in those environments and understanding and just being ready to assist where needed, and being open to understanding how you can add more value, and maybe when it's not even being asked for.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I actually think it's beautifully practical because I think it speaks to that point of like antenna up, always be listening and actively hunt for cues, because I think that can be the challenge, is that in a busy environment, we're often almost like just becoming order takers. So this idea of like, has there been a brief submitted? Is there an email request that's here?
Yeah.
And so we're constantly reacting, but I think we can start to take more control and become more of a trusted advisor if we're actually always attuned and then picking up on those cues, collecting those dots and saying, all right, what can we respond to, or how is that helping me build a better picture of that client and their kind of specific needs and worries?
Yeah.
So always be kind of like, always be hunting for those crumbs.
And I like those things, like, how sometimes people would go and work, like get out of the office and go and work at the client's place and get a hot desk and whatever and just be around.
Yeah.
And they just become someone who's like, hey, you're here. Like, let's chat about this thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean it's like, you shouldn't just give all your time to these people, but it's like it helps to just be around and just be listening and have that antenna up. Like
I couldn't agree more. I also think, well, if we often work from home. It's not that you actually, I think flipping the script from an agency perspective, and I've been advocating hard for this, it's like, well, you're actually, it's not billable hours. You're just working out of a different environment.
Yeah.
So if it's it could be your kitchen or the client's office, where if they're happy to have you, you are by osmosis picking up, they seem to have a bit of a strained relationship. That's interesting. I didn't know that tension existed. They just actually, I think I saw someone coming in from a different agency. You never know what you're going to kind of be able to sort of like pick up. So yes, I would say hard indoors, spend time in your client's office. It's incidental face-to-face, much easier to get a coffee with them and build those relationships that I think are conversations outside whips, as much as we love them, that you actually can start to actually strengthen the relationship and gather the like really useful intel.
100%. Like I think like, the work from home thing is, it's good, but I think one of the things that it does detract from in a marketing sense is this kind of like, just the, like that, I don't know, like that chemistry or that kind of like, I don't even want to call it, just the magic of like bumping heads, being outside, seeing things like, Rob Campbell used to always say the whole thing of like planning is an outdoor pursuit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think marketing is an outdoor pursuit. It's like, even with my team, it's like, I just don't want to do this meeting here. Let's go for a walk. Like, let's see something else. I just think it's so important. And even just like getting out of the agency, going into the client and just existing in the world there, catching the train into the city and sitting in their big building and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, this is how you guys operate every day. And like seeing like almost putting yourself and sometimes seeing their myopic view as well and understanding what they have to battle to get out of that can be extremely important, I think, to give you that perspective and then help pull them out.
Beautiful. I love that advice.
Yeah.
We're actually going to ask you for then a really pointy one, if we can, to close out our whip. So we've asked all our guests if they might share a top tip that suits can apply come Monday to be better at their job.
My top tip is identify the real end decision makers, like in any organization. And I think it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to speak to them, but it's understanding the process that your person has to go through in order to get something in front of those people. It's like, it's so common, you spend like weeks on a piece of work or something, then present it to that person for them to then go, that they're basically, their job is to prepare for the next presentation.
Yeah.
And then that person's job is to prepare for the next presentation. And then it's like 10 people, 10 presentations, 10 months later. Do you know what I mean? And it's like to understand that process can help you make it a lot easier to navigate it or protect the idea or whatever, but and understand the flow of information, I think is really critical. And so, understanding who the endpoint is, I think can be quite helpful.
I love that advice. I don't know if anyone listens to this particular podcast, but I'm going to steal from Anthony Scaramucci.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And he talked about, think about who's in the room, who's not physically in the room. And he actually talks about Trump and Epstein. So he's like, how that affects an individual's decision-making. It's the invisible forces. And if you are always thinking, who is that person 3 presentations ahead that is going to influence it? You're building your presentation for that person. Not the actual attendees of that first meeting.
And to go back to that other point, like, you know, around making that person, making your client look good, it's like to understand, well, what does that person want to see from the client? Do you know what I mean? As they're taking that to them, it's like, how do you assist in that transition of information, but also that elevation of that person? Because that, again, that just builds the relationship.
It's lightening their load, isn't it? You know, when you go, make it easier for me to be good at my job is half of suiting, I think. It's like kind of, paving the way so everybody else has more space to play at their best.
Yeah. So that's
Beautiful.
my tip.
Top tip. I love it.
Yeah, I love this conversation because we always sort of skirt on the surface of account service, and I feel like a lot of people, like, you're just, you know, your project managers, order takers, but this has gone so deep into relationships, and I think it's been a good fun.
Lovely. That was an awesome tip. Thank you. And on that note, I think we're done.
Yeah, thank you everyone for sitting in, and we will see you next time.